What's up, everyone? Welcome to Wednesday Night Mythic Conversations. It is the week before Mythic Weekend festivities. So next week at this time, I will be live at Four Horsemen Studios. We will be doing our annual kind of kickoff to all the festivities. Intern for a day, G-Con Rising Suns, obviously LegionsCon 2023. That all happens next week. Can you believe it? We are just over a week away. So tonight we're going to do a couple things. We're going to talk about some of the stuff going on. We've got some new lore to actually go through. I will do a little bit of a reading tonight, and we are going to answer your questions about Mythic Weekend. To do that, I wanted to bring on someone who has been on my show a number of times. Always love having a conversation with this gentleman, and he was a huge part of LegionsCon last year because he is the leader of the Furious Four. I am talking about Lord Steven himself. Steven, thank you very much for joining.
Always a pleasure. Was very excited to see that you invited me. I can't wait to break things down. I can't wait to hear this lore thing you have in store for us. That's going to be.
Have you read the new short story?
I have not.
Ooh.
I have not.
Excellent. So just a little bit of like kind of housekeeping for people that are watching. If you've got questions about Mythic Weekend, save them. Save them for right now because we will get to that. We're going to do some stuff at the early part, and then we'll switch it over and we'll get right into talking all about Mythic Weekend, answer your questions, what to expect. I certainly have some questions for you as well, Steve, and what you are looking forward to.
Great. I'm ready to go. Are you ready for don't piss yourself to be permanently attached to you from now on?
It's one of those things that, and by the way, for those who don't know what that joke is, I had a really enjoyable interview on Sunday night with, was it Sunday night? Was it Sunday? Time is going by so fast.
I believe it is Sunday.
Yeah, on Shooting the Shelf with Jesse and Curtis. If you missed that show, definitely check it out on the Shooting the Shelf YouTube show. It was an absolute blast, and it was one of the things that I said on the show that has now become a memeable type comment, apparently.
Dude, I mean, I think it's wonderful. If I was you, I'd be excited.
Yep.
I mean, where would Stone Cold be without Austin 316? You know? Don't piss yourself. It's in that vein, man. I wish I would have said it.
It is. So one thing I do want to start with, Steven, and Kevin lines this up really nicely where he says, I know this isn't 4H o'clock, but can I go over the issues with Grave Knight and what are the fixes in hand? It wasn't the clearest on that show. Yes, I will go over that very quickly. So most of the fixes, it's not like you're going to get parts after the fact. These are things that we discovered. The parts are already on the way. They're going to come with your figures. There's actually some of this we probably, if we wouldn't have told you, you probably wouldn't even have known any better that these were fixes. But very, very briefly, there are some face shields that come with the Sligor Gravekeeper figure, and they also come with the weapons peg. You know what I'm talking about, Steve? Those like kind of, there's two of them. There's one that's like a solid color with the Gravekeeper and one that's like a purplish color. It looks like a kind of like a force field that clips into the head.
Yes. Yep.
All of the prototypes that we got, all of the samples had a little clip on it that allows it to clip into the head. For some weird reason, the final production, they ran one without the clip. So when it came in, it just doesn't fit like it's supposed to. Very easy fix. We got them. They ran them. They ran all those. They're on the way to us now. That affects, again, the Gravekeeper, and it affects the weapons pack. The Gravekeeper, the other thing is, because he comes with got kind of like the torso like overlay on, they forgot to put his little turbine plug in like the Tusk Sentry has. So we're getting that sent to us as well. So when you open your Gravekeeper, there's just going to be a little baggie in it that's going to have those replacement shields, and it's going to have the turbine. Again, if we wouldn't have told people, they probably would have been like, oh, why did they give us extra face shields, and why did they include the turbine? They probably just would have thought that's the way it came. But those are the pieces that were wrong on the Gravekeeper that will be in the box. Kanox was missing a little tube. All of those are in the Kanox boxes. I think the only ones that they won't come in is the all-ins. The all-ins, when you open that up, there's going to be a baggie of separate, because they don't want to have to open all these figures from the all-ins. So in the all-in, there's going to be a separate baggie of parts for these particular pieces. One of them is just a little tube that comes with Kanox. Again, I think some toy companies probably just wouldn't have included it and just would have been like, because it's literally one on his back that you probably don't even notice is there. That little tube was missing as well. The big thing people are asking about is this that we shared today. Let me bring this up. The Ias Cypidian issue. So right before this show, I shot a quick video that I'm going to post tomorrow about what the issue with Ias is. But to explain it very succinctly here, this Ias figure, the issue is the diaphragm joint. So if you've ever opened up a 2.0 figure and pulled it apart, Steven, I'm sure you've done that a number of times, correct?
Yes, sir.
Between the upper torso and the lower torso, that midsection there, it's connected with what's basically a barbell. So it's a ball on each side with a shaft connecting them. The problem is, what's supposed to happen is, as you twist, you're supposed to be able to move that ball. It's supposed to move within the socket, so it actually rotates in there. These particular figures are a bit tight, so if that ball doesn't move, what ends up happening is, as you twist it, the shaft starts to twist, kind of like a Twizzler candy would be, and if you twist it too much, it will snap. Now, if you take the figure and just pose it like this, you're fine. Like, I'm posing this right here. Everything is okay. That's not a problem. It's if you really put it through the paces and really twist it, you could break it. This is another example of all of the samples we got leading up to production didn't have this problem. Chris was saying that it could just be something as simple as they didn't add a little bit of like oil to that actual socket that would have made it smoother. All you have to do, and again, I do this on the video, is just separate the figure, dunk this in a cup of hot water. On the video that I'll post tomorrow, you can see I was literally taking this lower torso and spinning it around with no breakage at all. But that's what it is. It's that joint right up there that is just providing a little bit of tightness that if you pose it a certain way, there's a risk you could break it. But if you're the kind of person, Steven, that gets these and you're just going to pose it very, very basically, you're going to be absolutely, I didn't break it. I just separated it from the bottom legs. You're going to be absolutely fine. So I think we might have been using an abundance of precaution on this one by putting these instructions in with everything, but I'd rather warn people about something that turns out not to be a big issue than not warn them about something and they potentially aren't aware that the tiniest bit of extra care will prevent that possible breakage.
Yeah, I think that's a good move. I mean, it's, like having to put on the, cup of coffee that it's hot. Most people are going to know. I would like to think that most adult collectors are going to know that if you try to move something and it doesn't go, or you let go of it and it springs back to that place, then it's not swiveling in there and you need to put some heat on it and get it loosened up. Yep. But there are those people that, might not. So you put the little picture in there, which has great art on it, by the way. Is that who did the drawing there? That was Nate. That was Nate. See, yeah. I knew I could tell great art when I see it.
Yeah, we had Nate do those pieces. So we could actually show, what it wasn't just text. We could actually kind of illustrate it, because we do know that there are some people that have never pulled one of these apart. So we figured having those illustrations would be helpful.
I love the fact that there was actually, for the purposes of this, no reason to go into such detail. But there you go. Nate's like, nope, I'm drawing this figure, damn it.
Yeah, yeah.
You could have just done a stick person.
Yeah,
really.
We really could have, but we wanted it to be very clear. Someone did ask about a problem with the shield. Yeah, I did forget about that. The shield, the way the shields work, they have like an adapter type piece that plugs into the handle, and it actually is supposed to come with two adapters, one that plugs into the handle and one that actually plugs into the wrist port. The one that plugs in the wrist port was just the wrong size, so they're sending us the right size to plug in there. And again, that will impact the Gravekeeper figure and the weapons pack. But again, this is not going to be like the trolls. Like, remember with the trolls, the heads were missing, so we sent the trolls and then like 2 months later sent the heads out. That's not what's happening here. When you get your figures, the replacement parts are going to be in there. So basically, like with the Gravekeeper, the incorrect face shields, we're just going to leave those in the box, because there's no reason to, and first of all, it would take a ton of time to pull them out. Visually, you won't even notice. If you're a mint in box collector, you'll never notice that shield doesn't fit. And if you are a customizer or something, you might find a cool use for it. So keeping it in there is like a little bonus, I guess.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like no big deal.
No, I mean, realistically, I think a lot of other companies probably would have just done this on the sly and not been so public about it. But that's not how we roll. We like to be very forthcoming and very transparent. So it probably sounds a lot worse than it actually is. I saw some comments on the Instagram today saying I shouldn't have to do this with my figure. You're 100% right. You shouldn't. And you might not need to, depending on how aggressively you pose it. If you're the kind of person that pulls it out, does the most basic vanilla pose, and puts it in the case, you're probably going to be fine. But if you're the type of person that does a toy review and you literally put this things through like an aerobics exercise type lesson, yeah, giving it a little bit of heat is going to prevent some breakage.
Nice.
Sound good, right?
Okay. Sounds great.
Check out that video tomorrow. So besides that, Stephen, Grave Knight, Cosmic Legions 2 is on the way. Those have started shipping from the studio. Additionally, retailer street date, both for Grave Knight and for the retailer Figure Obscuras, is coming up on Monday, the 6th. Normally, we have a little bit more space between us starting to ship the product and street date. A little more compressed this time because, quite frankly, we did want to get these out. We did want to hit street date so we can have Grave Knight at LegionsCon. Now, fair warning, we never announce what we're going to have at a show, and I'm announcing in advance we will have these, with the caveat that we're not going to have like tons of them. We will have some, but it is a limited amount. So be aware of that. If every single person coming to LegionsCon wanted the Grave Knight figures, we don't have enough for that. So that's one thing to keep in mind.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Which figure from Grave Knight are you most excited for?
Novian Lean.
No, that is the right answer. Novian is amazing.
Yes, he's my favorite of the. I mean, I like them all, but I don't know. He's got such a Bosk feel to me.
Yeah,
from Star Wars, and I know that's been said before. I'm not the first one to come up with that, but I still enjoy that very much. And he's just, he's got like a Predator kind of look, but a Bosk kind of color scheme. I mean, come on, he's awesome.
He is great. He's one I really wanted. After now having them home and playing with them, I got to tell you, one I'm really loving is the Gravekeeper, because the Gravekeeper, I really love that overlay on the chest. Other than I do have the Waltor figure from LegionsCon already. But excluding that, the Gravekeeper is the first fully painted Tusk figure, because the other 3 Tusks that we have, unless you've got Operative 83, the other 3 Tusks, they're all Legion builders. So having a Tusk type figure with all the armor painted is really cool. But the fact that he's got the shield and like the electrical stick, they've got a very like Riot Police type look to them. And putting a couple of them together with Sligor in front of them looks so good.
Yeah, he would be my number 2. He's my number 2 that I would, so we're on the same page so far.
He is really, really good. So I'm excited for that. That is on the way. As I said, those will be at LegionsCon, but we will get to LegionsCon. Now, a big part of Mythic Weekend, Stephen, obviously, is the Mythic Legions Rising Suns wave. How excited are you that finally, at long last, after 5 years of these versus waves, the 2 best factions in Mythos are going head to head? The House of the Noble Bear, the Sons of the Red Star.
I am so excited for this. I fully agree that these are the 2 best factions. We may differ on which one is the ultimate first best one. Obviously, the Noble Bear is the right choice, but what I'm glad is that they did it last, because so far every time they've done this, the newest one is better than the last.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yep.
Now, I'm still super excited about Poxus.
Yep.
Now, no, don't get me wrong, but I think Necronominus was like, wow, they stepped it up a notch, and now I am fully pumped to see them stepping up a notch with these two factions right here.
I am very excited for this. I mean, I've known this is coming for years, story-wise, because that's one of the other things is, and I said this on Shooting the Shelf, and I'm sure I'll say it during the G-Con broadcast. This is the first wave we've done where the book, at least volume 1 of the book, is written. So often, Eric would sculpt stuff, and then I've been writing that into the book. This is the first wave where Eric actually went to certain pages of the book to find certain descriptions and certain things for what he wanted to do in the wave, which is mind-blowing in some ways, but it's really, really cool because to me, it's fleshing out the narrative aspects of what we're presenting so much better. And I love the fact that this does actually end that first big story arc. We know what's coming. So being able to foreshadow some stuff that we have planned for the future, being able to kind of put a bow on what we are doing with this first major story arc that has spanned about 10 years. It's a very exciting time all around.
That sounds interesting and also kind of scary to me, because I'm afraid of, the future seems fun and all, but I don't want to say goodbye to any characters and not that you're saying that's going to happen, but I don't want you to Last Jedi me on this, and
Endgame, like you don't want you don't want Phase 4 to be
exactly. I don't want Atlas to pretend to fight and die from it or something.
We've got really cool plans. I mean, all I can say to people is that I am obviously a mega fan of this property. I've been a mega fan since the beginning. Eric, the one who creates all this, is a mega fan of this property. We've got some great stuff coming.
I trust you.
You are not going to be disappointed. So one of the things we did to build excitement is we dropped a short story earlier this week. On Monday, we dropped a short story as a way to get people excited for the new wave, kind of set the stage a little bit, and answer a question. Eric came to me a few months ago and he said, I want to explain what the Red Star in Sons of the Red Star actually is. Like that idea, which up until that point, Sons of the Red Star was almost just, I don't want to say it was a throwaway name, but I never thought deeper into what that name actually means. And the fact that Eric was like, no, there's a name. So we started having this conversation about what is the Red Star? Where does that name come from? How did this all start? So we put together this short story, and if you mind indulging me for a little bit, Stephen, I'd love to read this short story. Do you mind?
Read to me, buddy.
Okay. So what I am going to do is I'm going to bring up this piece of artwork. This is a new piece of artwork that Nate Barch created for this story. This actually, as you will find out, is in Ophidian. So we're going to talk about this right now. Everyone, while I'm reading, I'm not going to be checking the chat. I'm not going to be answering questions. So please bear with me once I get through this. It is a lengthy short story, so this should probably take me a good 10 minutes or so. And then I promise we'll talk LegionsCon. Do you see it? The apprentice asks hopefully as the master busily records his calculations in a large, well-worn ledger. I do, the master replies without looking up from his work. It is clear as can be. If you know what to look for, go ahead, see for yourself. The apprentice moved towards the astronomy instruments eagerly, pressing his eye on the lens so he can see the view of the sky that his master has been studying. As promised, the celestial body is clearly visible through the lens. The Red Star of Khubyraa can be seen beginning to make an appearance in the skies above Mythos. I can see it, the apprentice exclaims, unable to contain his excitement. It has been decades since the Red Star was last observed, and the unpredictability of its appearance has made studying this mysterious celestial body difficult for the scholars of the Convocation of Basilia. Within the year, it should be visible to all of Mythos with the naked eye, at least for a short while, the master says as he closes his ledger. Now is the time for seekers of fortune to prepare for important endeavors, should you believe the stories about the star's appearance and the good luck that it brings. You don't believe those stories, do you? The apprentice asks. He has studied under the master for close to 10 years, and he has never known him to be given to rumors or fanciful stories. His master is a member of the Library of Agbendor. He is one of the Order of the Learned who live within its halls, dedicating their lives to tireless study and an understanding of the workings of the world. All stories have some truth to them, the master remarks. But the idea of the Red Star of Khubyraa being some kind of magical presence, or even the Great Mother herself watching her children from the sky, those are the kind of silly stories told by travelers to pass the time on a journey, or parents to lull their children to sleep at night. There is no evidence that there's anything other than one of the many bodies existing in the skies above Mythos. I find it interesting that you are so quick to discount the idea of magic or divine presence here in Ophidian, where magic exists more surely than anywhere else in the realm. I do not doubt the presence of magic, the apprentice replies, but there's a marked difference between definable magical phenomena and penny ante stories meant to amuse drunkards and children. You forget yourself and your position, the master scolds, as his apprentice's words begin to grow bolder and more heated. My apologies, master, the apprentice says as he bows his head. You are correct. I should have held my tongue. It will not happen again. I have no problem with you speaking your mind, the master answers as he rises from his seat and returns his ledger to a bookcase filled with similar volumes, each of them records of the Red Star of Khubyraa and the unusual events which have taken place during the times that it has appeared over the ages. Studying these events has become the master's life's work, and it is a dedication to that calling that he has now spent years trying to instill in his apprentice. My comments and my concerns are more about your closed mind than your loose tongue, the master says to his young charge. You are a learner. As such, your mind should be open to all possibilities, however childish they may seem. I have much to learn, the apprentice remarks. Yes, you do, the master agrees, but being stuck here in the dusty halls of Agbendor is not always the best way to learn necessary lessons. The master reaches into a large trunk and pulls out a pair of well-worn traveling cloaks. He throws one to his apprentice, and the young man catches it as he looks ahead with a confused expression. Put that on and follow me, the master commands, and before he be questioned, he adds, and no questions until we've arrived. How we doing so far there, Stephen?
Good. You got more, don't you?
I do. 2 glasses of Mercurian red, if you would, my lady, the master addresses the barmaid at the small tavern they now find themselves in. Where are we? The apprentice asks. His master has led them to one of the library's annexes, an area that the apprentice could not recall ever visiting despite his nearly decade of time as a student of the Convocation of Basilia. Stopping at the end of a long corridor, the master took the apprentice through a small doorway, a doorway which amazingly led out of the grounds of the library and into the broom closet of this tavern. No one seemed to pay the two scholars any mind as they exited the closet and took their places at the table they sat at now. We're in Mercurios, the master replies, but we are in the far north of that island, in a town called Doran. It's close enough to Leandor that it did not slip into ruin like the rest of Mercurios once the Colosseum fell, but it's still separate enough from the Kingdom of the Lion that it functions somewhat independently. It's a wonderful place to get away from the dramas of the realm for a bit to clear one's head. Is that what we're doing here? Clearing our head, the apprentice asks. Ah, yes, thank you, the master says as the barmaid places 2 large cups of red wine on their table, the contents nearly spilling out of their containers. Another reason I love this place is their generous pours. The master hands the barmaid a few coins and nods. Please leave us now, he says with a tone of authority. My friend and I have much to discuss, and we do not wish to be disturbed. The barmaid nods and leaves the pair to their wine and their conversation. Make yourself comfortable, the master replies as he takes a hearty sip from his cup. I have a story to tell you, and it will take some time. So is that what you brought me here then? To tell me a story and instruct me in a new lesson? Why do we need to leave the library for that? Why bring me here? How does that portal work? Do the others of the tower know about it? I brought you here because this is where it all began, my boy, the master replies. This is where I decided to dedicate my life to the study of the Red Star of Khubyraa. The apprentice is silent and the master begins his tale. I chose to study the Red Star, but you did not, he says to his apprentice. It was assigned to you as your focus field of study. The Order of the Learned did this because of my age and the relative obscurity of my field of expertise. You see, there are many magical disciplines and areas of focus that are quite popular with the students of Ophidian. The study of an obscure celestial body which appears sporadically in the heavens and which has not been seen in many decades is not one of them. The Order believes that all knowledge must be passed on and that all fields of study should be continued. This is why you came to me nearly 10 years ago. You were meant to pick up my work once I am no longer able to carry on. Is that unusual? The apprentice asks. Not really, the master answers. It happens with all the less popular fields of study and any that do not have new students volunteering to explore that field. But I fought against it when they notified me of their intention to make you my apprentice. Why is that? Rest assured, it was nothing personal against you. I wanted someone who was as passionate about the Red Star as me to take up my work, not someone for whom it was merely an assignment. The master takes another long sip from his cup. I fought against the appointment, but obviously I lost that debate. So I decided to make the best of the situation and teach you what I knew, and I will say that you have been a very diligent student over these years. Thank you, master, the apprentice replies. But, the master continues, my fears have never abated. You are diligent in your studies, but you do not have the call of a true believer in the Red Star. You watch the heavens out of a scholarly curiosity, which I can appreciate, but I wish for more from whoever will inherit my legacy of my work. This is why I have brought you here today. I will tell you a tale that I have never told anyone before, and perhaps you may begin to see the Red Star as I do. The master leans back in his chair. The room bustles with activity, but no one seems to take much notice of the master and his apprentice, and the story continues uninterrupted by the happenings of the tavern. When I first came to Ophidian, my area of study was meant to be apparition. I fancied myself as following in the footsteps of the great witches and wizards who banished Poxus and his army back in the day, helping to win the first great war by striking such a decisive blow against the enemy. I was in my 5th year when myself and a group of other apparition students began to hatch a scheme to create a portal out of the school. It just so happened that one of the students came from Mercurios, where their family ran a small inn and tavern. This small inn and tavern, in fact. She knew the place intimately, having grown up under its roof, and so we used that knowledge to help us build a bridge from the library of Adbenbor to a closet in the back of the inn. I think we all expected the masters of the school to catch us and put a stop to it, but they never did. We were a pretty talented bunch, and the bridge worked just as we had planned. The trick was that you had to have come from Ophidian to the inn for the doorway to allow you back through. I always thought that little added security, which prevented anyone from jumping into the library who had not come from there in the first place, may have been why we did not arouse suspicion or get caught. Or perhaps it was the good fortune of the Red Star showing us favor. Either way, the doorway worked and we were able to come visit this fine establishment as often as we saw fit. You may find this hard to believe, but I was not the best student in my time. Talented, yes, but lazy. I was certainly not as diligent as you. While my fellow apprentices began to focus on their studies more and more in the years after these events, I found myself neglecting my education and using the doorway more frequently, spending generous amounts of time here in Mercurios. I realized now that I was searching for something, but I did not know what. Eventually, what I was seeking found me, and I discovered my true calling. It was a quiet night here at the inn, and I was enjoying a tall glass of Mercurian red as I tried to make sense of my studies. Apparition had become a bore to me. I questioned my place in the convocation and whether I actually had what it took to become a master someday. There were a few solitary travelers in the inn that night, but everyone kept to themselves and no conversations could be heard. My studies were going nowhere, and I found myself blankly staring at the pages of my book when I heard a voice say, "May I join you, good sir?" I looked up to see a man who I had not noticed before then, and one whom I had never seen in the inn previously. He was dressed in fine red robes, and he wore a silver mask that completely covered his face. His appearance was unusual, but Doran is a port town, and as such it sees a fair amount of unusual and exotic visitors, so the stranger's appearance did not cause me too much surprise. There was something intriguing about him, in fact, and I found myself inviting him to take a seat out of both politeness and curiosity. He sat down and introduced himself as a mayor, which I later realized was a title rather than a name. I immediately questioned the mask that he wore. "It's the custom of my people," he answered, explaining that he was a traveler from the far shores of Etheros, one of the cultures who spent a good portion of their lives on the seas and for whom trade and commerce are so important. His people wear the masks when meeting those outside of their own clan of merchants. It was meant as a way to hide emotions during negotiations, since the business of doing business was such a key part of their lives. We began to talk casually. He asked me about my studies, clearly seeing that I was a student, and I asked him what brought him to Mercurios. Keep in mind, this was many, many years ago, before the fall of the Colosseum, and he explained that the contests of the arena were why he was traveling at that time. He was passing through Doran on his way to the Colosseum. I was not one to follow the fights of the Mercurian arena, but even I knew that there was a big contest happening that had drawn spectators from all across the realm to come visit and see the spectacle. This is where he was headed as part of some business venture he said he was working on. This is where he mentioned the Red Star of Khubyraa for the first time, telling me that he was fated to succeed in his endeavor because the Red Star would be in the sky. Like you, I'd heard fairy tales of the Red Star of Khubyraa. The most popular one was that it was the Great Mother, Selene, up in the heavens, looking down upon the children she had left behind. Supposedly, when the Red Star appeared, it was a time of good fortune, for the Great Mother was shining her light upon those who followed her still. Again, these were fairy tales that I had heard as a child and paid no mind to as an adult, but my companion that evening told me that there was truth to these stories. He explained that the star was not the Great Mother, but rather another divine being who had visited Mythos a number of times over the years. The stories of the good fortune being found by those who worship the light of the Red Star of Khubyraa were indeed true, he said to me. This was when he mentioned that he had recently formed a group made up of such worshippers. He called the group the Sons of the Red Star. The apprentice gasps at the mention of the name. The Sons of the Red Star were widely known across Mythos as a band of mercenaries. Truth be told, calling the Sons mercenaries was a gentle way of describing the dealings of this shadowy group. Calling them criminals and assassins would be a more accurate description, for there were few deeds too nefarious for this band of cutthroats to be involved in. Even in the learned circles of the schools of Phidian, Far away from the dark alleys and shadowy corners where the sons plied their trade, the stories of these criminals and the importance of avoiding dealings with them were well known. The name is obviously familiar to you, the master says. But again, this was long ago, before the Sons of the Red Star had gained the reputation they have today. You said you met the man who had formed this group, the apprentice said. Was it actually him? Was it the one they called a Crypt Breaker? He didn't use that name, the master replies, and it could well have been another member of that group, for they employed trickery and misdirection as a matter of their dealings. But I've always suspected that it could indeed have been the Crypt Breaker. The master shifts in his seat and takes another long drink from his cup. You've barely touched your wine, he says to his apprentice. Drink up. You will find no finer vintage anywhere closer to Ophidian. The apprentice does as he is told, and the master continues his tale. You still set with me, Stephen? Can I keep going?
Oh, yeah. Keep going.
Okay, here we go. Gonna bring it home. We spent hours that night talking about the star. I felt myself growing excited in a way I've never experienced in the normal course of my studies. The Emir opened the bag he had by his side and removed pages of detailed notes on the Red Star's appearances over the years, along with reports of incredible events that had taken place during those times. It was not definitive proof in the way that we are used to seeing at the schools of Ophidian, but it was also too much to simply discount as a coincidence. I kept listening to the Emir's words. He was convincing. There's no doubt about that. I tried to push back and use my scholarly reason to debate what he was saying, but he had an answer for every argument I presented. And truth be told, I was arguing simply because I felt like I was supposed to do so. In reality, I felt the truth of his words. I wanted to believe him. Before we knew it, dawn began to break. We had talked through the night, and we were the only two left in the tavern. The Emir rose from his seat and announced that he had to take his leave. I felt myself having trouble breathing, almost as if my air supply had been cut off as this man began to make his exit. Here, the Emir said, as he turned to me and handed over his satchel of papers. This is all the information I have collected over the years on the Red Star of Khubyraa. You are a scholar with access to resources that I do not have. I can see in your eyes that the belief is beginning to grow. You are ready to follow in the light of the Red Star. Use this information to do so. I had no response as I clutched the papers I had been given. I could breathe again. It was as if my life had been given back to me, or better yet, a new life had been shown to me, one I had never even realized I was yearning for. The star may seem unpredictable, the Emir continued, but I believe that if studied properly, we can find patterns in its appearance. If we can understand it and when it will appear, we can bask in the good fortune granted by those who worship in its light. The Emir left me then. I do not know how long I sat there without moving, but eventually I rose from my seat and made my way to the portal that would take me back to Ophidian. I had the papers on the Red Star of Khubyraa with me, and I knew that my life had been forever changed because of that meeting. The master pauses in his tale. His mind is on days of old and memories which he has not spoken of to anyone before this nice conversation. What happened next, the apprentice asks. Upon my return to the school, I petitioned to change my studies from apparition to the focus on the Red Star of Khubyraa. There was no such discipline currently, and the Board of Governors was skeptical at my proposal, but I spoke so eloquently and passionately at that meeting that I could not be denied. I could feel the Emir's words on my tongue as I explained the importance of the Red Star and why we needed to study it. Ultimately, my master at the time granted me leave, and the board approved my proposal. I could not be granted the title of master myself, but I was allowed to pursue independent study absent of a master to guide me. I approached those studies with a vigor I had never before shown. I had a level of dedication equal to even the most fastidious students at the schools of Ophidian, and in time, I was actually recognized as a master myself. Eventually, I acquired an apprentice of my own. That, of course, is you. But what happened with the Emir? Did you see him again? The master smiles. He has finished his wine and he reaches out for his apprentice's cup, realizing that his young charge has barely touched it. It is far too precious to go to waste, and he takes a sip before answering. I did, he says. It would be close to 12 years before my studies turned up evidence that the Red Star would be appearing again. I had not returned to the tavern in Doran since my meeting there with the Emir. I was so absorbed in my work, I had seemingly forgotten about the inn. But knowing that the Red Star was rising again, I suddenly felt the urge to visit this place, secretly hoping that the mysterious stranger who had set me upon this journey would be there waiting for me. Was he? The master nods. He was. I came through the closet doorway into a tavern that was equal parts familiar and unusual. The establishment had changed hands in the years since I had last visited. Mercurius had also fallen to ruin many years prior, so the place was darker and less welcoming than I remembered. Still, one thing that was familiar was the silver mask and the red robes of the man sitting at the table in the middle of the inn. The Emir waved me over. A glass of Mercurian red already waiting for me at the spot across from him. I expected to see you this night, he said as I sat down. You have seen the signs, have you not? I have, I exclaimed. In all the years of my study, I had spoken about my findings and theories with many fellow masters, but none of them believed as I did. They found my studies interesting purely from a scholarly perspective, but they did not believe the truth behind my words. Sitting across from the Emir, I knew I was in the presence of another who worshipped under the light of the Red Star. The master pauses and acknowledges the stunned expression on his student's face. I realize I sound like a fanatic, he admits. I am not. I'm a realist. I know what I feel, but more importantly, I know what my studies over these many decades have confirmed. There is more to the Red Star than fairy tales and traveler stories. I've seen it for myself. I mentioned that I was eventually presented with the title of master, something unheard of in the order of the learned for a student without a master of their own to speak for them. Yet I did it. And my petition to the governors just happened to coincide with the arrival of the Red Star of Khubyraa in the skies above Mythos. Its fortune shone down on me, and I did what no other student of Ophidian has done before or since. I am also not naive. I know that the Emir used me to further his own schemes. This is not surprising. He introduced himself as a member of the Sons of the Red Star that first time we met. The name meant nothing back then, but today we know the truth of this organization. Yes, they are killers and thieves, but that is the reputation they want the realm to know. It's easy to allow Mythos to think the Sons are nothing more than killers for hire, as it hides the true power they wield from behind the shadows. Information can be as dangerous as any blade, and that is why the Emir needed me. I was able to give him access to the library's resources. This arrangement helped him further his understanding of the Red Star in a way he could never have achieved without someone from inside the convocation. He wanted me to supply him with information, and that is what I did. I knew early on that I was being used, and yet I gave him this information willingly. In all fairness, however, I asked for information in return. The Emir supplied me with his findings on the Red Star of Khubyraa to help further my own studies, as well as intelligence that his network had gathered on other happenings in the realm. I was able to discreetly pass a few small but important pieces of information to the powers that be at the Tower of Basilia. This information helped protect some of the interests of our faction from those who would seek to weaken us. I have come back to this tavern a few other times over the years, with each one of those visits coinciding with the arrival of the Red Star. Every time I have returned, the Emir has been waiting for me, and we have exchanged information. Each visit has been followed by the appearance of the star and important happenings within the realm, happenings that we have both been able to be prepared for thanks to my studies and his intelligence. So is that why we are here now? Because the star is returning? Are we to meet the Emir, the apprentice says as he looks around the room, hoping to see this man in his red robes and his silver mask? The star is too far away, the master dismisses with a wave of his hand. Now is not the time for a meeting. But I took you here because this is the responsibility you are inheriting from me. The calculations in the books that I keep are the smallest part of what I do. As followers of the Red Star of Khubyraa, this is our true calling. If we know what is coming and when our plans are most likely to find success, we can use that to keep the realm safe from our greatest enemies. And scheming with known killers is the way to achieve this? Tough times make for strange alliances, the master replies. After all, when else but in times of dire need would a serpent, an eagle, a lion, and a deer find themselves fighting side by side? The master drains the glass of wine in front of him. I asked the barmaid to leave us be, he says to the apprentice. That was good for the privacy of my story, but it's bad for when I now find myself without anything to drink. If you would please fetch us some more. The apprentice nods and leaves the table with 2 empty cups. He's honestly happy to be away from his master so he can process all he has just heard. So, Stephen, this story is a lot longer than I remembered it being.
You're not going to stop.
You're still okay with me?
Well, yeah, you can't leave me here.
Okay, is everyone in the chat? Are you still okay? Should I continue? Bring it home? We're in the last section here.
Last section.
A well-told tale, and it was even all mostly true. A voice whispers from the shadows of a table behind where the master is seated.
Get that voice nice and silky. Just enough gravel in it to give it some gravitas.
I told him as much as he could process, the master says. The truth of the matter is that he is not ready for this. He's not yet a believer, but I didn't know how else to open his eyes and make him one, and time is growing short. He may be a problem for you, the voice says. We may need to eliminate him. I will handle him, the master replies. He's a good boy, and I will see no harm come to him. Besides, we need his help. I fear that dangerous times are ahead, and unless I pass on the responsibilities of our arrangement, you will lose access to the resources of the library, should I be called away to tend to matters of war. I am a scholar, but as a master of the tower, I am also expected to be ready to fight should the need arise. I fear that call, and whether or not I shall return from it. The star has returned, the voice announces, changing the subject. And I feel as if a visit from Khubyraa is different than before. There is more at stake here, is there not? As I have said, things are happening in the realm, the master replies without turning his face to the voice at his back. Tell me, what have you heard? The old powers are returning, the voice answers. I don't need my network of informants to tell me that. The shadows are moving, and evil is making its way from the darkness and into the light. I feel this as well, the master replies, but the light of the Red Star is ready to shine again. So those of us who know how to read the signs must be prepared to take advantage of the situation. I am always ready to take advantage of a situation, the voice answers. The master pauses. I'm a believer. Make no mistake about that, he finally says. But I am also a member of the Convocation of Basilia. If war is really coming, my loyalties will be with my faction in the Legions of Light. I need you to know that. Who are you talking to? The apprentice asks as he returns to the table with 2 cups, again filled with red wine. The master looks behind him, but the shadows are empty. There is no one there. Old ghosts, the master says as he turns back to his apprentice. None of your mind? Anyway, thank you for fetching the wine. I say we enjoy these cups and then return to the library. What do you think? I remember a story my mother used to tell us as kids, the apprentice says as he takes a seat once again. It was about dragons. I remember her describing them as these absolutely massive creatures. The stories were unbelievable. Clearly, they were tales made up to amuse small children like us at bedtime. Stories to fill our heads with magic or scare us into behaving if we began to act up. The apprentice pauses and takes a long drink from his glass, draining almost half of it before continuing. I grew up looking for dragons everywhere. I was convinced there was one sleeping in a big cave not too far from our family's property. I used to steal coins from my parents and throw them in the cave, hoping that the beast would come forward to claim them for its hoard. Of course, no dragon was in that cave, and as I grew older, I left those fairy tales behind. Then I came to the Tower of Epsiode. I grew up in a small, fairly remote area in the west of Etheros. The most exotic neighbors we had were a family of gnomes who sold mushrooms and blackberry jam at the local marketplace. Coming to the school was eye-opening, to say the least. So the first day I was here, I came around a corner and I bumped hard into a wall. At least I thought it was a wall since it didn't move when I hit it. Imagine my surprise when I look up and that wall was actually a dragon. The master smiles. A Rakagor? He asks. Yeah, the apprentice nods. Here I was staring up into the eyes of an actual dragon. Admittedly, not the same kind of dragon that my mother used to tell us about exactly, but it was a dragon all the same. In that moment, I realized the realm is far bigger and far stranger than I ever realized. The apprentice takes another deep drink from his glass, and the master does the same. What did you say to me earlier back at the library? All stories have some truth to them? I'd forgotten that. Tonight's been a reminder. Does that mean you believe me? The master asks hopefully. It means I'm willing to open myself up to the possibility that the Red Star of Khubyraa is more than I thought it was. The master nods. That is good, he says. Very good. You may be ready after all. The pair of scholars finish their wine. Let me return these to the barmaid, the apprentice says. Then we can head back. I'm anxious to look at some of your notes with a new set of eyes now that we've had this little lesson. The master nods his approval and begins to think on what his next step should be and wonders how the unfolding events that he spoke about with his shadowy visitor will impact the realm as he knows it. He pays his apprentice little mind as he walks away from their table. The apprentice makes his way back to the back of the tavern. It has grown late in the evening and there are only a handful of patrons left in the place. He places the empty cups upon the bar, but the barmaid is nowhere to be seen, nor is the bartender. Shadows gather in this dark corner of the room. The apprentice looks about to ensure he is not being observed. He has an actual affinity towards you, a voice whispers from the shadows. It's nice to see the old man attached to something beyond his studies. Unexpected, to be honest, but useful. He finally seems to trust me, the apprentice replies. It's taken 10 years, but at long last I'm being brought into his confidence. The secrets he has kept from me will be revealed to us soon. I can feel it. Yes. Our plan to put you inside the school in order to observe his studies and learn the secrets he has artfully kept out of the information he passes to the Sons of the Red Star is paying off. Another sign of the Red Star's good fortune shining down on us. You have done well, and your commitment will be recognized, I assure you. Thank you, Scapular, the apprentice replies. No names! The voice from the shadow scolds. Not even here. The apprentice nods. Be cautious, the voice continues. I told your master the truth when I said that the shadows of the realm are moving. The arrival of the Red Star signals a time of opportunity, but most opportunities come during eras of great change and upheaval. We must be ready for anything. Under the light of the Red Star, the sun shall rise. Under the light of the Red Star, the sun shall rise, the apprentice repeats. The shadows do not reply, and the young scholar returns to his master and his mission. There we go, Stephen. That is the short story, The Red Star of Khubyraa. It is a Mythic Legions Rising Suns prequel story. What did you think?
There's a lot to digest there.
There's a lot there. Before we talk LegionsCon, what parts of that do you want to dig into a little bit?
So, I mean, the Red Star is like it brings luck to its followers. Is that what I'm gathering? It brings good fortune.
Yep. So actually the name, a little behind the scenes, the name is loosely based on like a god that I found, like a god from, it's like a Tibetanish, I forget exactly what pantheon it is now, but it's a god that I was looking up luck gods of fortune, and most gods of fortune seem to be like Chinese or Japanese, and they tend to be like big jolly type characters. Mm-hmm. And then I found one that said it's like a god of like criminals and like shady dealings. And I was like, yeah, and monsters. I was like, that's the one right there. So there's this group that they have this belief that if they worship, that they believe that this celestial red star is actually some kind of deity that visits Mythos sporadically, and worshiping this god in the light of this god will bring them good fortune. And, one of the things they allude to is over the years, there have been all these incredible things that have happened when that star appears in the sky.
So who's the apprentice?
All we know is he's the apprentice. The master and the apprentice don't have names at this point.
Or do they?
Have to wait and see.
Are we getting gnomes?
So that is... So a number of people pointed out gnomes. That is a perfect example of... I mean, I could have made that any race. I could have made it, obviously, any of the races that are already in the Mythic Legions line. But just being able to drop something in there like that does exactly what I was hoping for. It gets people talking about, excited that this is an official, this is canon. Like, one of the cool things about this story is this short story is not in the book. So the book that we are working on, volume 1, does not include this short story. But when you read the book, you will understand where this short story appears, and it makes this short story even cooler because it opens up. It's kind of like Rogue One, where stuff that's in the main story, this has a lot, it fleshes out a lot of stuff that's not critical to the narrative, but it adds more color to certain things. So yeah, dropping gnomes in there was a fun little way of, me acknowledging that race exists in Mythos.
So gnomes are canon now.
Gnomes are canon.
I like it. Gnomes are canon. Dragons are canon. They've mentioned dragon. He was looking for a dragon.
And
right?
even that, so what I did with Arakagor is very indicative of elements in the book. Like, that scene is just a fun way to work in the name of a character.
Yeah. But that was a different type of dragon
than
the dragon he was looking for in the cave, which means that there's going to be another type of dragon, which is going to be a big dragon about 3 foot.
But he says that, he realized that dragons don't exist. That was a childhood fairy tale. But then he bumped into Arakagor and he realized, well, you know what? Maybe dragons do actually exist.
It would be lame if he thinks dragons don't exist and they don't. It's always cool if you think dragons don't exist and all of a sudden we get a 3-foot dragon. Boom.
Have to wait and see. But yeah, like I was saying, is that little almost throwaway line about Arakagor. That's the type of stuff is throughout the actual book. When there's a character that doesn't need to play a major role, rather than just making it like an empty character, I will usually try to work in a name from one of the toys and stuff, just so they have a role and they have stuff. I'm not saying Arakagor is not going to do anything else, but in this particular case, it was just fun to drop that name in there to place him at the schools of Ophidian and get people excited for him having a little appearance.
Super cool. I like it. I like that the master is studying the Red Star, appears to have noble intentions, but Cryptbreaker's trying to get, he's trying to get him. He's trying to get him with his little apprentice there. That's just, I don't know. I need more.
So when I was going through it and I gave it to Eric, like one of the things he liked, and I've heard people comment, they liked the twists that you think the master's good, then you think he's actually a son of the Red Star, but then he reveals that, you know what, he's not. He is actually loyal, but he's realizing that strange times make for strange alliances. And the whole time you think that actually the apprentice is just this like wide-eyed, like, are we going to see the Amir?
Yeah.
And then at the end, it all wraps up that, yeah, he's been a plant in the schools for 10 years. And it's just the Red Star is pulling strings from behind the shadows.
What town is he the mayor of?
The Emir?
You said he was a mayor.
Oh, okay. So that's just my horrible accent. What I was trying to say was Emir, Emir. It's so Emir. It's not like a lord. It's kind of like a lord type character or lordly character, but
Lordly.
yeah. So something you know a lot about. But it's the name. It's something that would be more exotic, more like from like Persia and stuff. Those types of Arabian Night type characters, Emir, Sultan. It falls into those types of titles of nobility.
Well,
So that's what I was saying. I wasn't saying the mayor. I was saying Emir, Emir.
I'm calling him the mayor from now on.
Wholesome Warlock says Emir of Funky Town. No, he is not the mayor of Funky Town. He is definitely not that.
Oh, fun stuff. Good job, buddy.
So again, just a little something fun, dropping some lore, getting people excited for the new wave. Now, Steven, I will admit I am behind. I've been super busy. I have not heard the prediction wave for Noble Stars. I wonder if you can drop a few of the things you are not necessarily expecting, but most hoping for in the new wave. And then we'll go on to LegionsCon.
Hoping for, I mean, I'm going to be honest, and you could help me, you might be able to help me out with this. There's often been talk many times about Atlas's bear that he rides.
Yes, that is.
Where does that come from? Is that something fans made up?
No, that's something that Cornboy said years and years ago.
Okay.
Like
that's where it came.
Like, yes, it's one of
maybe
those
was it on my show?
It might have been. It's one of those things, like a lot of those early interviews, you know, where Cornboy would say some of these things. So much has changed since those early days. I'm not saying whether Atlas rides a bear or not, but if you go back and you absorb all of that old stuff, or you hear it through the grapevine, there's definitely things from back then, like evergreen Legion builders, that you will hear people say that may have changed in the time since then. So is that your way of saying that you hope we get a bear?
I think it's an awesome idea, and I do hope we get it. I mean, maybe we won't, but I would enjoy it if we did. So yeah, that was definitely something we came up with. One of the weirdest things I think we came up with, gnomes was on our list. We wanted to see gnomes. We wanted to see another smaller than goblin type, you know, and we predicted we you know, jokingly, or I don't know, it's obviously just play, but we predicted a 2-pack. Like you'd get at least 2 gnomes in a pack.
Okay.
But one of the weirder things we came up with, which I don't think we'll see, but I thought it was very fun, was we realized that, to our knowledge, Sons of the Red Star has no ogre scale. So we predicted an ogre scale skeleton because there's skeletons in the Sons of the Red Star. We thought that was fun. So the rest of it was probably stuff that people would have come up with on their own. I mean, we're talking, you know, we all want to see a 2.0 Atlas. Okay. And I think we all talked about a 2.0 Crypt Breaker, but we also talked, one of the weirdest things was another version of Grisha that reveals what race or what species that character is. Just fun stuff we were talking about. I know that just about everything that we talk about isn't going to happen, and what you guys give us is probably going to be better, but that was our talk.
Well, what I'll say is this. Doing Noble Bear versus Red Stars was expected, but because it was expected, a lot of people didn't think we would do it, because we do like to surprise people. We do like to kind of, you know, do things that get people like unexpected. I just said that, obviously.
Yeah.
So doing what was expected caught some people by surprise. Does that mean that we did an expected wave, but we're going to fill it with totally unexpected things? Are we going to do things? I mean, like you just mentioned at 2.0, the last couple waves have had version 2s of characters. Maybe we avoid that this time because it's what people expect. And, these are 2 factions that we really want to get some brand new characters into. We don't want to take up those spots. So we're all just going to have to wait and see. I mean, we've got just over a week, and then we'll be able to do the reveal of Mythic Legion's Rising Suns, and all the speculation and guesses will be answered.
They will, and I like I said, I'm fully expecting to be over the moon. I cannot wait to watch Richard Jones cry.
Yep.
Cry with happiness at how cool the Noble Bear is.
Every time we reveal one of those, that's where I'm looking. I'm looking right at him, and I'm just going to be like.
But I'm going to plug you. If you didn't watch the last Legions cast, you probably should, because it was kind of a hoot watching Emil draw little sketches of all the things we were coming up with.
I just heard someone say they want a print of Emil's sketches. Very cool. So just over a week away, again, next week at this time, I will be in the studio doing my annual kind of, pre-Mythic Weekend kickoff, because the day after we'll be intern for a day. I assume, when are you planning on getting there? Thursday night?
1 week from today, I will be going to bed, because we're going to be getting up the next morning very early and starting to make our trek to New Jersey. So we're expected to be in, I'm thinking if we leave 5 o'clock-ish, maybe.
Yeah.
Would be a good time.
Last year.
Yeah.
So then you'll be at G-Con the next day, which this year is conveniently at the hotel. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a bummer because I know people like coming to the studio, but I mean, realistically, you've been to G-Con. The area of the studio that we do it in is in a back room that we didn't have access to this year. So while people do still walk around the rest of the studio, and we'll be missing that. I think it's going to be really good to have it at the hotel where kind of everything is happening. That's going to be a nice change.
It's definitely more convenient, especially for those of us who have to go set up immediately afterwards.
Exactly. Not to worry about racing over there.
Yep. But I will say there is a magic for us fans to being at the studio.
Yep.
So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we will still have, obviously, the people coming in on Thursday for intern. So I answered a number of questions about LegionsCon on the Shooting the Shelf on Sunday. But if anyone in the chat has specific questions about this weekend, and these can be questions that are very, very black and white, like where the LegionsCon figure is going to be sold, or these could be opinion type questions, what to expect, what to be looking out for at LegionsCon. Steven, you've been to the last few. You can help answer some of those questions as well. And we've got Sergeant Toyman saying, this is my first LegionsCon. I'm curious, Steve, what advice would you have to people that are going to LegionsCon for the first time to make sure they get the most out of the experience?
Calm down.
Calm down. Okay.
You are going to be so overstimulated. At least I felt that way.
Yeah.
That you don't know where to look, and you look at, your eyes go on, they fixate on something, and you want to look at it, but you've got the instinct that you need to look somewhere else because there's something over there, and you just need to calm down and enjoy the time you're there. Mm-hmm. Take it in. It's cool. Got 2 days. I think that you just need to calm down and enjoy it. You just don't run around like a chicken with your head cut off, because that is definitely the instinct that came over me.
Yeah, for sure. That absolutely happens. Is there's so much to see and do. I mean, I would suggest to people maximize your time. The show opens at 9:00. I mean, if you're staying at the hotel, get down there. You don't need to be in line at 2:00 in the morning. There will be people in line at 2:00 in the morning. Maverick is saying, can we sleep overnight in the hallway again? I'm not going to kick you out, but I don't know that the hotel will allow it. They didn't say they won't. I also didn't tell them to expect it. Going to the hotel, it's an interesting mix of wanting to warn them, but not scare them. So they may go over there. They may have nobody in that section of the building. They may not even know at all. Our section is very, very secluded from the rest of the hotel. If you're in the lobby sleeping on their couches, they're probably going to ask you to leave or go up to your room. So I will say that you don't need to feel like you've got to be in line first thing. There's going to be product at that table all day. Some of it will sell out, and then other stuff will come. And there'll be some stuff that we have all weekend that doesn't sell out because we have plenty of them. It's a crapshoot.
I think for those people who want to sleep in the hallway, I think it's more of a
camaraderie.
Yeah, I don't think it's the need to do it or anything. Yeah. It's just kind of it's like lining up for a Star Wars movie 2 months ahead of time.
I'm not going to stop you from doing it. But I agree with what you were saying, Steve, is don't be too overwhelmed. Spend some time. I think that Saturday is a good day to get your bearings, to see all of the exhibitors on the floor, to really pick up some of those key pieces. If you have certain artists that you're going there and you really want a Stephen Bisciotti piece, doing that as early as possible on Saturday makes sense because so many of these artists, their pieces are one of a kind. Once it's sold, it's sold. Using Sunday to kind of pick up the pieces, hit the Horseman table a few more times, go back and see things a second time. I think that makes sense. But definitely the show is open from 9 to 4 on Saturday, 9 to 3 on Sunday. Be there that time. Maximize the time you get to spend.
Yeah, I can't speak to what other artists are bringing, but I can tell you for myself, like my wares... I have duplicate heads, but even among the duplicates, everything is pretty much painted differently.
Yeah.
So everything is kind of it is kind of a one of a kind, So that's good advice. If know.
Will the Irish pub be serving Mercury in red? Let's hope so.
Let's hope so.
Dave Orkin saying bring cash, never a bad idea. There are going to be plenty of exhibitors, including Four Horsemen Studios and LegionsCon, that will accept cards, but cash is king at all toy shows.
Yeah, cash is a good thing.
Curtis is asking me, what is the price I couldn't turn down for the Princess of the Frogs? I'm not going to give you that price, Curtis, because I heard you say on another podcast that you were going to come to the show and make me a price I can't refuse. So I'm curious what that price is going to be. So the ball is in your court, sir. Let's see. Going through the comments here.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
Personal question.
Yeah.
So George Lucas has been known for saying he never got to see Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because he made Star Wars. He didn't see it like us. He's not a like fan. Do you feel like you don't get to see LegionsCon?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. Yeah. It is hard. I try to get around and see everything, but I'm not doing it as a fan. It's important to me that everyone who's there as an exhibitor knows that I appreciate them being there and giving their time and, their support to the show. So I try to make it a point to go and see what they have, but I'm doing it out of a need to want to support them and give them genuine appreciation. And I do look at what they have and I do see it, but it's a very different kind of approach. I mean, I've seen some of the stuff people are selling, some of the posts they've made, and there's tons of stuff I'd love to buy, but I have to accept that I don't have time to do that. I don't have
Right.
time to walk around and hit those tables because I'm just too busy with the other responsibilities. So there is certainly a part of me that feels like I don't get to enjoy the show the way I would if I was just an attendee. And I think this makes a lot. I mean, Stephen, as an exhibitor, you don't get to enjoy the show you would as an attendee. So
No,
as an
it's true.
exhibitor and a host, there's yet another level for that. It's not a bad thing because I get a lot of other rewards out of it. I get to be someone who, helps bring this through the team that does this
Yeah.
to the fans. So like I said, it's a give and take, but yeah, I don't get to experience it in the same way.
I feel like as an exhibitor, at least we get to talk to a lot of people, and
Mhm.
I feel, and this isn't just your show. This is, looking at promoters from PowerCon and wherever else. I feel like the guys who really put the show on are always rushed. You're always in the middle of doing something, so you don't have that kind of chill out time
Yeah.
to just hang out at the show. So it's
And
another step.
it's hard because I mean, like you talk about PowerCon, Val is the host of PowerCon.
Yeah.
I serve in that role, but I also have my Four Horsemen duties. And I mean, like, do I have the whole Mythic Customs table that I'm excited to hang around and talk to people about those tribute customs this year? And then I have the Legion shop table that my family works at that I know if they have questions, I'm the one that needs to answer it. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of different hats that I have to wear. But it does also make it really enjoyable at the end of the day when the show is closed and we're hanging out in the lobby. It makes that chill time that much more enjoyable for me because I do get to kind of take a breath and enjoy that in a really chill type fashion.
Nice.
So we got Nick saying, would it be a good idea to bring my own figures to trade or sell? It depends what you are asking. If you were talking about like kind of setting up like a little swap type thing in the lobby, then no, we don't allow you to do that because we have vendors who have paid good money to get tables at this. So we do not want people doing, parking lot sales and lobby sales. I can't stop you from doing sales out of your car, but we certainly say out of respect for the vendors, we don't want to do that. And in any show areas, we're not going to have you do that. Now, if you have really old Mythic Legions figures, really valuable ones, and you want to bring them to trade to some of the vendors for things they have, that is certainly a cool idea. If you're holding like an Adamon or a Keltis and you want to bring that and use that as trade bait for stuff that you think is cool there, sure, I'm sure there's some people that would love to do that. So really depends what aspect of how you're asking about that. So everyone keeps asking, Stephen, on all the Road to LegionsCon shows, what are you most excited for the con? How about yourself?
Oh man, it's such a hard question every year. It's not a hard question. It's the fun and it's the people. I know that sounds lame.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody pretty much says that, but
There's
that
nothing
is
wrong though. I mean, I think that's a testament to how great the community interactions are.
Yeah. I'm really excited this year about. I really enjoyed last year having being able to be in the same hotel, have the lobby downstairs so that you can just go down there and you can hang out. It's social time for as long as you want to stay. And I think this year is going to have that same atmosphere feeling, and I'm really excited about that. But as far as if you take that off the table, I'm really excited to see the new waves. Yeah. I really want to see the new figures. So
this map is on the LegionsCon.com website. We do still have some badges available if you haven't picked them up yet. But to answer some questions for people, when you do come to the show, what's going to happen is this is a huge hotel, okay? Much larger than last year, to the point that there's actually 2 entrances. So if you come in through the main lobby, there's like a big, covered, I don't know what those are called, but like the things you can drive cars underneath, like a covered walkway, portico or something. If you come in there, that's the main lobby. If you come in that way, you're going to see the Irish pub on your right. And there's literally a corridor right on the side of the Irish pub. You're going to see LegionsCon banners. If you go down there, you're kind of coming through the back end of LegionsCon. So you're going to have to go around a corner to get to the front doors. There is also a second door right in the parking lot that's going to lead you right into the event space. So when you come in, there's going to be a registration table, and registration, if you are in the hotel on Friday night from like 6 to 9, we're going to do early registration. So if you come up, if you've bought the ticket with Eventbrite, you got an email with a QR code. So either show us that email, or if you go to eventbrite.com and just log in with your username and email, there's literally like a tab that says like my tickets or something like that. Tap that and your badge, your QR code will come up. We need that QR code so we can actually scan it and check you in and give you your badges. So that's important. But you can do that Friday night if you want, so you have your badge ready to go on Saturday. Because on Saturday, Stephen, what's going to happen is, see at the top of this map how there are these 2 red lines and it says main entrance, 4 horseman table, main entrance 2, general show entrance?
Yeah.
Basically, there's a hallway outside here where it says main showroom. That's a hallway. This space between those doorways is where the registration table is going to be, out in the hallway. So you're going to have 2 options. You're either going to get in the 4 horseman line, which is going to come out the door, snake around that far left edge of the building. That's going to be, it's inside, but that's going to be over there. Or if you don't want to wait in the 4 horseman line, you can just go right into the general entrance and get to everything but the 4 horseman tables. You can do all the other stuff. So people are going to have to decide which one they want. Now, the LegionsCon figures, Stephen, those are not even in the main room. Remember how I just said out in the hallway between these 2 doors, that's where registration is? All the way to the far right in the corner of that hallway, you'll see that's where the table for the LegionsCon figures is. Literally, everybody, once you're there, it's a lot of space, but there's going to be so much going on. It's going to be pretty obvious where everything is.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to have that, the exclusives in their own little spot.
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I like it.
The exclusives line goes fairly quickly because, unlike the horseman table where there's so much product to walk through and decide what you want, you come up to the LegionsCon table and it's 1 figure a day. So on Saturday, it's Vorgus Vermilius 2. On Sunday, it's Walter the Mad. It's a limit of 2 per person. So you come up and they're basically like, you want 1 or 2. That's really and then we will have a limited number of prints. We showed the print today. It's limited to 75 copies made of that print. So we'll have those for sale for $20. Yep. And then the pin set is $50. So those are while supplies last, of course. So you come up, there's only a certain number of things you can possibly buy. So that line tends to go fairly quickly.
Yeah. Yep. No fuss, no muss. Get in, get out.
Even the horseman line this year, you saw at PowerCon how much quicker it went with the scanners and the 2 checkouts. So I think between all of that, it's going to be a much quicker pass through.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's going to be a lot smoother than last year, and more time to go see what the vendors have.
So Alex saying, is there an ATM at the hotel? Someone said they did call the hotel and there is an ATM on site. Now, that being said, ATMs do run out of money. I've seen many toy shows where I think the ATM at the venue last year ran out of money. So I would not depend on the ATM in the hotel. I would bring the cash that you want. I hate to say it, but bringing the amount of cash you want to spend is also one way to keep yourself in budget.
Yeah. I don't recommend that. Bring more.
Yep.
Bring more. No.
Kirby's saying, any tips for not being cool enough to attend? Kirby, anybody is cool enough to attend. It's a very incredibly welcoming environment. So if you can get there, you'll enjoy it. This particular map is on, I send the website, and this shows all the different tables in the main room. And if you scroll to the second page, it actually tells you all those names and who is who. If you want more information about these creators on the LegionsCon website, we actually have links. Like we have a section for all the guests. We have a link to all their different Instagrams or whatever. And then if you keep going, you get to the second room, and that's a smaller room that's right across the hall. This second room is actually where we're going to be doing G-Con on the Friday. So that is available. Super, super helpful if you're looking for that information and trying to plan out your, your kind of method of attack. Yeah. Okay, going through the questions here. Doesn't seem to be too many questions, Stephen. I think we've got most of it covered.
Well, good.
Very cool. It is interesting. I mean, I'm so incredibly just honored that people continue to do this, come out for this, because I mean, it's like people like, I mean, it's easy to say Emil. It's easy to say Emil and Tomas, or the Euro Legions guys flying all the way over, or even the guys from California. But I mean, what you guys are doing with that all day drive, the fact that so many people are coming in so far and they do it year after year, it really just blows me away that we've built something that brings so many people and means so much to so many people. And there are so many fans who, when we announced this back on like mid-January, they've been counting this down since then. And here we are just over a week away.
Yeah, this vacation, and for me, it is a vacation. Emil and Tomas come in this Saturday night, and that's when my vacation starts. So it's Mythic Week for me.
Yep.
And this is the biggest thing I look forward to all year long.
Curtis has a good question. Who will go to bed earlier at LegionsCon, Jeremy or Steven? That is not even a debate.
Yeah, it'll be me.
Yes, because I go to bed early, except for at shows. I tend to stay out at shows late. You
do, but I'd like to say that I did a good job last year. I hung out at night.
You did.
I wasn't in bed by 9. I stayed up till like 11 or 12, and for me, that's like 4 a.m. in regular person time.
I get it. I was downstairs probably until close to 1 each night. But the thing with me is I'm up. It doesn't matter what time I go to bed. I'm still going to be up at 5 o'clock every single morning, raring to go. So I will be there in the lobby late at night, but I'll also be working the line first thing in the morning, talking to Maverick and all those people that are sitting there hanging out.
Yeah. And, for people that are like me, that's why it's so great to have, to be at the hotel. Yes. You can, I've got a social battery. No. I am more of an introvert as much as I'm on stupid podcasts all the time yapping. You wouldn't think I would be that way, but I am. So, I do need to go away sometimes. And that's what's cool, because last year, I think I went up, on at least 2 nights, I went up to the room and just hung out by myself for an hour. But after an hour, I came back down. You go up, recharge your battery, come back down.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And that's the thing too, so the show runs, let's talk, because Saturday is the big night. So Friday, there's going to be people milling about. So if you are an exhibitor, you are busy on Friday. I'll say this again. The halls are closed to attendees on Friday. You cannot go in those halls. We will have security. If we see you walking around in the halls with an attendee badge, we are going to kick you out. So please don't put us in that position, because it sucks. But outside of the main ballroom, there's a giant lobby area where people are going to be hanging out and mingling and having fun. Feel free to go out there. That is for you. There's going to be tons of stuff going on Friday. Saturday is clearly the night where everyone is partying because no one's setting up anymore. Everything's set up. But Saturday runs from 9 to 4. You know, the reason we cut it off at 4, like a lot of people are like, why don't you go later? Well, this year we are going later for exhibitors only. So there is an after hours buying time for exhibitors because they can't get away from their tables during show hours to come shop the Horseman table. So this is going to allow them to do so, number one. But besides that, we want to give people time to get back to their room, freshen up, get some dinner, and then it still be like, oh, wow, I'm done everything, and it's 6:30, 7 o'clock. They have a lot of hours that they can hang out. Even if they wanted to go to bed for 11 o'clock, they're like, well, I just hung out for 4 hours with people there. You know, I think that's important. So don't, if you want to go up to bed at 8 o'clock because that's when your battery's drained, that's not a problem as well. The opportunities are there for you to spend a little bit of time mingling or a lot of time.
Yeah.
Ken Poole saying anything I can't record during Mythic Weekend, nothing official. I mean, anything you want to be able to record, I think is pretty much open. If I arrive after 9:30 p.m., should I wait till Saturday to get my badges? You can check and see if the table is still open. If we've closed the the registration table, then you'll have to wait for Saturday. But if we're still there, we'll certainly check you in. Is it bring your own box? So we do have boxes, but we will run out. So if you are concerned about boxes, you know, bringing something to carry your product in is never a bad idea.
I like the sound of people being like, how many? I need a box.
Oh, yeah, trust me. I like that idea. I like the sound of that, too. Mark saying this will be a vacation, took some time off work. Yep. It's become a yearly reunion amongst friends. My wife pointed out I've been counting the days since last year ended. I mean, very much. I say it all the time. It's part toy show, part art exhibit, part family reunion, and all three of those are equally important to LegionsCon. Let's see. Jeremy, you need to get Malcolm from your Legions to read bios at G-Con. No, because that's my job. I like Malcolm, but I also like job security. So the answer is no.
How about having Travis read that short story? He started at when the con opens at what, 10?
Yeah, he might be done by the end. Curtis pointing out that Treadaway was the last person in the lobby on Saturday. He's a warrior. Yeah, he is a night owl anyway. But yeah, at shows he loves it. He loves being out there and seeing people and talking and just hanging out. Yeah, that's him to a T. He was up really late at PowerCon too. Let's see. Are people going to hang out at the hotel? Ken says yes, very much. So, I mean, the hotel it's 350 rooms, and I think they gave us like 80% of the hotel space, and we sold it out. So yes, I mean, there are people that aren't staying at the hotel that are like local that will be at the hotel until late, and then they'll go home and regret they didn't just get a hotel room in the first place. So yes, Ken, there are very much people hanging out at the hotel. There will be people. So Wednesday night, there will be a few people at the hotel who are there for intern the next day. Thursday night, there'll be a considerable more amount of people because Steven, yourself and your crew and more people start to roll in Thursday night. And then obviously Friday and Saturday night is chaos. But even Sunday night, because a lot of people don't go home till Monday, Sunday night is also a bit of a party night as well.
It definitely is. It's a little smaller because some people are gone, but it definitely is still a social gathering and fun, more fun to be had.
When are you going back this year?
Monday morning.
Nice. Yeah, it's too much going on Sunday to have to try to break down, and then especially with the kind of drive you have, you know, you don't want to be driving through the night.
Absolutely not. No, we're definitely staying at,
CJ's on the chat here saying I'll be there Wednesday. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, obviously, CJ's worked with the studio in an incredibly impactful way for years. So to have the CJessam team at LegionsCon this year and at all of the Mythic Weekend festivities is very, very cool.
I got to assume we're going to see some of his work on the new stuff, and I cannot wait to see what they come up with, or what you guys come up with and they pull off. I don't know how that works, but you know what I mean.
Have to wait and see. Brendan saying there's a 24-hour quick check. That's a 2-minute drive down the road from the hotel. So for anyone who's not familiar with New Jersey, it's there's stuff everywhere. Like, that's the only downside about the hotel this year, is that there are not restaurants within walking distance like there was last year. It is kind of it's on the highway basically. But if you've got a vehicle and you're willing to drive for 5 minutes, there's plenty of stuff around. Do vendors check in Friday for the same place for their badges? Yeah, you don't have QR codes. So you'll just kind of go up to Joe. You'll see Joe milling about there with his clipboard, and he'll get you your badges and show you where your table is.
Will the fireplace pits be burning?
I went to the hotel last week and stayed there for 2 nights, and the sign outside said that the outdoor stuff closes at 10:30. So I don't really know what that means if they lock it. I was also not there on like a Friday and Saturday, so I don't know if they're open later those days, but they were burning both of the nights I was there.
Yeah.
Which was very cool. It was nice nights, and it's actually a really, like, the area, besides being on the highway, the area it's a big area. They've got really nice grounds, huge parking lot. So that's cool. I did see some people asking about paying for parking. So you don't have to pay to park during the day. Parking is for overnight customers that you need a pass for. But if you got your tickets, if you got your hotel room through the room block, parking was included. So when you go check in, parking and Wi-Fi, we negotiated those being included in the actual price of your hotel room. So just ask for the pass for your car. They did tell me that it might appear on your bill, but they just ended up refunding it. So I will say that anything for the hotel is between you and the hotel. I negotiated everything with Joe, but we don't have any insight into your bookings. So that if you have any questions about that, it is between you and them. Yes, Greg saying, Trevor, there'll be something burning outside.
Mm-hmm.
We know that's where a few people are going to be hanging out.
Might be smoking a few cigars.
Oh boy. Do you got any special ones that you're bringing?
Nothing. No. Just the usual, high-end stuff that I like to smoke in Travis's basement.
So question says, is there a different hotel every year? So last year was the first year at a hotel, and it was different, but it was very, very much that we outgrew that hotel. The idea isn't, we want to do it in a new venue every year. I don't want to do it in a new venue every year, because doing that means I have to learn everything again. Like, all this stuff, there's so much work to iron out the relationship and to understand the unique quirks of the venue, and them to understand the unique quirks of the show. So our goal is that we are going to be back here next year. That is the plan. We are talking to them now and negotiating stuff right now. Because if we are able to come back here, if we can work that out, it'll be a lot less preliminary work than we had to do this year.
Yeah, it's always nice to be able to walk in and know the lay of the land, even as an attendee and a vendor. So,
yeah, and I think this year at PowerCon was my first time really experiencing that. Or no, not really, because like when we do like ZoloCon
Yeah.
and stuff. Obviously ToyCon New Jersey, even just being a vendor at shows like that, when you know the venue and you know the show and stuff, there's a comfort level of knowing how you're going to set up, what to expect and stuff like that. So it was definitely like that, even though we were in a different spot at PowerCon this year, even just knowing a bit about downtown Columbus and stuff, I was looking,
Yeah,
that's helpful.
absolutely.
We haven't announced the dates, but I believe the 11th next year is not a weekend. It's always going to be a weekend. So as soon as we know what the dates and everything are, as soon as we lock that all in, we will make those announcements. Yeah, Alex saying, I was watching videos of past Legions cons. I got to wondering how it's grown so much as fast as it has. Why do you think this is? Congrats on the success. Do you want to take a stab at that? What do you attribute the growth to?
There's a few things. First thing, it grew because, the easiest thing answer is it started out super duper small.
Yeah. I mean, when you start tiny, it's
you start tiny. Yeah, it was, and that's the only one I haven't been to is that first one.
Yeah.
And from I've seen pictures and heard and everything, and when you start that little, and you're just kind of, it was you guys kind of just dipping your toe to. I don't know if you guys had intentions of this at that time.
Not at all.
So, just like it was cool. We heard everybody hears good things. You go back for the second year, which was in a cafeteria. That was and that was a lot of fun, and not in a hotel. It was, you're commuting back and forth and everything. But I think the biggest reason it keeps growing is word of mouth. Yeah. People hear the atmosphere. They hear what's available there. They hear how good the artists are. The property is growing. There's that too. The property is growing. Everything is growing at this point. There'll be a point when I think it will come to a point where it's not going to grow as fast as, just like children don't grow as fast as they get tall, older. So, that's why. And I think it has to do, it starts with the Horsemen. It starts with their openness to fans and their willingness to please, and their being guys like us that like this stuff. It's infectious, and I think that breeds people like you to attract to them. And it's a big snowball that you start rolling, and it's gonna go for a while. It's gonna grow for a while, I think.
Yeah, I think those are astute observations. That first year, you're right. We imagined it just as a fun little get together, like a little meetup type thing. I've said this before. We thought it was just going to be a handful of us local fans showing off some custom figures. When Dennis Derby flew in, and Nikki flew in, and Walter flew in and stuff, we were like, whoa, people are actually like traveling for this. That really took us by surprise. And I remember going out to dinner after that first LegionsCon. So that first LegionsCon was after day one of ToyCon. Like ToyCon, the Horsemen were set up there. It ended at 5, and then from 5 to 8, we were in a side room in the Parsippany Pal building, and we just did the little get together. So I remember going out with Joe afterwards, and we started talking about the different things that we could do and the plans that we had. And from that earliest conversation, one of the things, and we say this all the time, and this is kind of one of our driving mission pieces, is we want to make it so everyone who's back home, who sees the coverage, says, there's no way I'm missing that next year. And they do what they need to do to put the wheels in motion to attend the following year. And then everybody who's there, we want them to have such a positive experience and so much fun that they say, I cannot imagine missing this next year. I've got to come back. And we want people like yourself, Stephen, who make this part of their yearly tradition to get to New Jersey, to be a part of this fun, to hang out with friends, some of whom they only see this once a year. That has been our mission. And so far, we keep seeing it growing because I think we've been able to do that.
Absolutely, you've been able to do that. I don't ever want to miss it.
And I do think too, without, tooting our horn too much, I think it's just unique, right? I mean, I was talking the other day with Shooting the Shelf where we were talking about G-Con, and I was just like, what other toy company does that? Like, what other toy company, so the advent of COVID, because the Horsemen have been doing G-Con since 2018. So 2 years before virtual broadcast, before COVID made virtual broadcast something that everyone was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, even in a post-COVID type era, a lot of companies still do those virtual broadcasts. But how many of them do it in front of that live studio audience that invite, friends and people from the community and, all these different, passionate members of the community, the Legionnaires, to fill that room and enjoy that experience with us? I can't think of anybody else that does that.
No, not off the top of my head. I mean, I can see, I remember the Horsemen back in the pre-Mythic Legions at San Diego Comic-Con, back when Masters of the Universe Classics was happening.
Yep.
They would have reveals of the wave, and it would be broadcast to the, in front of a studio audience. They'd have an audience there, and they would be broadcast.
Yeah.
So I think it was a natural evolution for them to just keep on, and that was obviously done by Mattel.
Yeah.
But I think just kind of continuing in that vein is what they've done, and it's been really cool.
That
another thing
would be the closest, like doing like those panel discussions at like Comic-Con, where you'll have a company that does a panel and reveal stuff in the panel, and then you're actually at the con, so they have stuff on their table. To me, that's the closest, and that's awesome, not taking anything away from that. But it's also very, very different being one piece of a gigantic con versus the con specifically. Yeah, like literally, we're going to do a day-long broadcast, because it's not a 1 hour panel discussion. We're going to do a 5 hour broadcast, get you guys all to be part of it, and then we're going to set up and do a weekend-long show with all of our best friends.
Yeah.
It's pretty special.
Super cool.
I know I am incredibly excited for this. I leave for New Jersey on Monday. I've got a very busy couple days ahead of me. I've got a busy weekend ahead of me. And then bright and early Monday morning, I'm on the road, and I'll be in New Jersey for 8 days.
Nice.
I'm pumped, dude. I'm so pumped.
We all are. We all are. Those of us that are going.
Who are we going to miss this year? Who's not coming from the crew?
From my crew? I don't think. Is there anybody not attending?
Because you've got all of your little like whack pack that comes along with you. Is there anyone not coming?
I don't think Travis's wife is going to be with him this year.
Okay.
She was last year. Yep. And his son, and I don't think Kane will be here either.
Okay.
But other than that, I can only think of a couple add-ons that are riding along.
Oh, who's coming that hasn't in the past?
I believe Mike Smith is coming.
Okay.
Which if you listen to the My Wife Is Going to Kill Me podcast, he comes to the show once in a while and says nothing.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if there's anyone else. I know Mike's coming. It seems like there's somebody else that I'm forgetting. But
is Cody coming this year?
No, unfortunately not. I wish he was. He almost did, but Cody's job, he hasn't been at his job a real long time, so his vacation time is kind of precious.
Yeah. Oh, it makes sense.
It's a lot of days,
Makes sense.
But we would love to have Cody with us.
Yeah, Cody would be fun. I got to tell you, dude, Cody is funny.
Yeah.
Like, when he gets on the mic on the podcast, dude, he is gold.
Yeah.
And you know what? I just listened to the Potu episode.
Yeah.
him doing that quiz for you guys, he was like prepared. He seemed to be having. It seemed like he was having more fun on the PO2 episode than he does on traditional My Wife Is Gonna Kill Me episodes.
Agreed. He talked more on that episode. He interacted more on that episode. It was kind of funny.
But he also didn't talk in a purely sarcastic way. He talked about stuff like he said that stuff was cool multiple times. He gave encouragement.
Yeah. Oh, that's the infectious nature of podcasters of the universe.
That's apparently is. It was something special. So Old Man Kyle, Boonstra, they're all going to be there.
Believe so. Old Man Kyle, Boonstra, Matt Rod.
I know Matt's going to be there. He's an exhibitor.
Yeah. Nate Strong.
Well, of course Nate will be there. Yep.
Emil, Tomas, the usuals. You know, Pete.
So you've got a nice group coming.
We do.
Very
it's
cool.
It's going to be awesome.
Very cool. I am very, very excited. Like I said, it can't come fast enough, but then once it's here, it goes too fast. Like once it's here, it's just, I try to absorb every moment of it. And that's what I would definitely leave people with is really enjoy the time that you get to spend there, because these are really, really precious moments. And yes, when you hear all of the Road to LegionsCon episodes and you hear people saying, what's your favorite part? What are you looking forward to the most? Everyone is excited for the toys. Reinforcements 2, Grave Knight, all of the figures, what surprise figures are going to end up on those tables and stuff. All the painted heads and the full custom figures. Those are all wonderful, but there's a reason why everyone keeps saying it's hanging out. It's the community. It's seeing everybody. That's the type of stuff that is really, I think, the magic sauce around LegionsCon is the people, top to bottom, that are part of this.
Agreed. And that's coming from a guy who doesn't like people. I like these people. These are my people.
They are.
So
they are. So anything else that we should talk about? Anything else on your mind before we call it a night?
Not really. Just everybody to know that I probably will not be found at the My Wife's Gonna Kill Me booth. You're going to have to go check me out over at the Wolf King Customs booth. And
so the My Wife Is Gonna Kill Me booth is over here at 34. And you are going to be more over here between 6, 7, and 16, right? Because while those 3 booths have the Wolf King Customs logo, Emil, Curtis, and Jesse, that entire row is basically Team Wolf King.
It is. There'll be more than what is shown there. Patrick will be hanging out.
Patrick will be there. Nathaniel Armstrong will be there. Yup. David Williams will be there.
I'll be there. Yep. So yeah, we'll be kind of squeezed in on those. I'll probably be around where it says 7. I'm guessing is where I'll actually be. So,
and then in this too, to look at the rest of this block here. So Legion Shop is right there as well. Mythic Customs is right there at booth 19, and then Eric LeBron is at booth 20. So that really is kind of family right there.
Yeah, that's a good area.
Yeah, that's good. Even right across, we've got Toy Forge, we've got Detour, Immortal Collections. This is actually Meta Travelers with their new Kickstarter stuff. Did you end up backing any of that stuff on Meta Travelers?
I did not.
Did not?
I think it's cool, but I did not. No, just skipping on a lot of stuff lately because of room.
Yeah, makes sense. One of the cool things is you'll be able to see them there in person, and who knows, you might change your mind, decide you want to grab a couple.
For sure.
What else have you been skipping lately?
Geez, I've cut back on a lot of stuff. I've really cut back on, I hate to say it, but a lot of the Masters of the Universe stuff.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of it coming out, though.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of it coming out. Did you skip a Big Mondo recently?
Skeletor.
That's what but you have a Skeletor, right?
I have the first Skeletor.
Yeah, so you
Eh,
skip the upgraded one. Just couldn't justify dropping that kind. It's definitely improved, but the other one is good enough.
It's super cool and everything, but it dropped at the same time as the Dragonfly for GI Joe for classified, and the Dragonfly is like
Yeah,
my favorite Joe vehicle. So
yeah.
I was like, well, I think it'll be easier down the road if I decide I need that Skeletor. I think I can find that easier than I might be able to find a
Hmm.
Dragonfly. I'm not sure,
Yep,
but that's the gamble I took.
yep. What about Cat Slayer? Did you do Cat Slayer?
I didn't. I would
Okay.
love to, but if you can see behind me, I got Snake Mountain,
Yep.
and I also have a Castle Grayskull over there, and I have a Thunder Tank in the other room. I don't know where to put Cat's Lair.
See, Cat Slayer, because having that one large like centerpiece for a collect, not for a whole collection, I mean, but for a like line, I think is cool. And I really thought Thunder Tank was going to be that for Thundercat. So when they did the Cat Slayer, I was like, wow, that feels like something you have to pick and choose. That's going to be hard unless you're just like primarily a Thundercats fan. So that's going to be hard to find room to display
Yeah,
both of those things.
yeah.
Oof.
So I've dropped. I think I've kind of dropped off on Turtles. I was doing the Super Seven Turtles, but now I haven't picked one up in a long time.
Yeah.
There's a few characters that might pull me in, but definitely not grabbing everything. So yeah, there's been a total change, and a lot of
Yep.
it's due to space issues,
Yep.
cosmic.
Yep.
I mean,
I absolutely. Absolutely. I'm dealing with that now. I started cleaning up some stuff in the toy room over the weekend. And I'm actually planning, I think that after LegionsCon, once I get into Pride December, I'm taking some time off. Like I'm gonna take some time to breathe. I think we actually close for the week of Christmas at the studio anyway. So at some point during the holidays, I think I'm going to tear all the toy room apart. And I just want to dust everything, but I'm gonna really kind of go through stuff and determine what I want to keep because with Poxus arriving and more cosmic and just more stuff coming, I think, need to get a little more selective with some of my stuff.
yep. Unfortunately, we can't have it all.
I'll tell you, I saw the Mondo big figures, the Battle Cat, and I'm a bad guy lover, so the Skeletor and the Panther, I saw them at PowerCon, and I would love to have them. I've got no room for something like that.
Yeah.
It's so big.
Well, you probably I've got the Battle Cat, and I will be getting the Panther.
See,
So
that was
that's
the
an
problem. Is if I had, because I feel like you can have just He-Man and Battle Cat. I don't feel like you can have just Skeletor and Panther. Like you could have all four of those, but
yeah.
and then I was like, I can't know. I'm trying to talk myself out of it because it's still a possibility I could do it.
It's a beautiful piece. I mean, just based on what I got with Battle Cat.
It
Wow.
is. It is. I see these reviews of it and everything, and it looks just so good.
It's so good.
I feel like I saw a comment in here that I wanted to comment on, but I can't. That was actually a good question. Kurt is saying, can you talk about coping with the post LegionsCon blues?
That's a real thing,
It
you
is.
people.
Very much is. I mean, there's so much build up. I mean, it's not unlike Christmas in some ways where there's so much build if you're into the Christmas season, which Stephen, both of us are. But there's so much build up for the holiday, and then it is over in the blink of an eye. It's the same thing with LegionsCon. We announced it in January. So many people have been excited about this for 11 months. When that weekend's over and you get home, there's a sense of it feeling kind of deflated.
Yeah.
What I would say is allow yourself to rest because you're going to have a hectic weekend. The community's still there. A lot of other people are dealing with it as well. talk about the memories, like talk about the things that you loved, and better yet, talk about the cool stuff you picked up there, some ways to get over that blues. There's going to be more stuff that's going to be hitting. Unfortunately, Poxis will not be in hand for LegionsCon, but hopefully it will be in hand shortly thereafter, which means that's something to look forward to. So think about the stuff that are going to be coming. That's the way that I personally handle the post LegionsCon blues. For me, I feel very deflated because this is I spent so much time on this, especially as we get closer to it, that I almost find myself not knowing what to do with myself. That's okay. Allow yourself to relax and to deflate a little bit. But if you are feeling depressed a little bit, enjoy the community. Get on the cabal, post some photos, do a review, take some pictures, do all those things that make you feel, again, close to the community.
Yeah. Yep. It definitely is a big deflation afterwards. What always helps me is that I am a big holidays guy, and we're heading into that season.
Yes.
So that's where, if you hate the holidays and then you go to LegionsCon and LegionsCon's over and you're like, oh God, I hate the holidays and my family sucks and blah, blah, blah. You're in a rough spot, buddy. You need to really reach out to the community.
So I listened to your episode about favorite movies recently.
Yeah.
My Wife's Gonna Kill Me, and I just wanted to say It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Great. I got some crap for that, but you know what?
Absolutely love it. I thought you made some bold moves. I mean, I'm not a war movie guy, so, there was some stuff on there that I wasn't personally interested in, but I respect the fact that you did some variety and that it wasn't all just the type of movies that you would expect guys on a toy-ish podcast to be talking about.
Yeah, well, I was always that kid that as a teenager, I would go to Family Video and I would be like, there's all these movies, there's new movies, and there's this whole section of old movies, and there's these movies you hear about, Citizen Kane, Gone with the Wind, and I would be like, you hear about these as big, offerings from the past. I got to see what's going on. So I would rent that old stuff and check it out, and I actually fell in love with a lot of old movies that my knucklehead co-hosts would never even consider to watch.
My wife just wanted to start watching for the Halloween holiday season. She wanted to watch a lot of the classic monster movies.
Yeah.
Bela Lugosi's Dracula, the Frankenstein, the Mummy, and everything. They're wonderful.
They're good.
So much. The only criticism I will have about those, I mean, have you watched them? Do you enjoy those?
I have watched them. Yeah, I own them. A DVD.
The
Fun
only
stuff.
criticism I have is they end crazy abruptly.
Yeah, they do.
You're just watching it, and they're just kind of like, and now it's done.
Yeah,
And really, it's not like movie making today where there's such a crescendo. There's such a build up to it. And then the big thing happens. And then there's the aftermath. And then there's the post credit scene. And then there's the second post credit scene. Those movies, they're just done.
Did you watch the Wolfman one?
I did. We watched Wolfman. Yeah.
It's one of the better ones in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's at least that one, it ends in a way that it wraps it up, but it wraps it up really fast.
Yeah.
It wraps it up with a sentence. They basically just say, "Oh, he must have saved her," and then it's credits.
Yeah.
Good stuff. No, we were really, really enjoying them a lot. So I agree with you. Sometimes those old movies, you're not giving them a chance if you just shoot them down because they're black and white or they're from a different time. There's definitely a charm to those movies for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Stephen, I think we're going to let our audience go. We are now 2 hours into the show, a solid half hour of which was me reading. So I'm going to let everybody go. Stick on the line. You and I will wrap up and geek out a little bit more. But for everybody else, if you are traveling to New Jersey, please travel safely. We want to see you there next week. Tune in next week on this show. Again, we will be kicking off Mythic Weekend. For those of you who are not traveling to New Jersey, please enjoy the photos, the videos, everything that people are going to be sharing. Obviously, from an official standpoint, we've got my show on Wednesday. We've got G-Con all day on Friday. You know there are going to be people that are going to be sharing videos and sharing stuff from the showrooms on Friday and Saturday. So see what it's all about, check it out, and then decide if you want to come in previous years. Otherwise, I hope to see you all at LegionsCon next week. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.